This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, and this is The 5. News is breaking on multiple fronts, and we begin tonight with the continued catastrophic flooding unfolding in Texas. Rain from Tropical Storm Harvey continues to pour on the Lone Star State, and now also on Louisiana, with the stalled storm causing waters to rise to near biblical levels. President Trump is scheduled to travel to Texas tomorrow to witness the devastation firsthand.
To the people of Texas and Louisiana, we are 100% with you. We're praying for you. We're working closely with your leaders and officials. And I will be visiting the impact zone tomorrow to ensure that you're receiving full support and cooperation from the federal government. And on Saturday, we think we're going back to Texas, and also we will be going to Louisiana.
We have reporters all over the region, and we begin with Steve Harrigan in Rosenberg, Texas. Steve?
Kimberly, this is just like standing under a faucet. It just doesn't stop. It's coming in sideways. It's been coming in sideways since dawn. It's cold. This is 9 inches of rain in the past 24 hours alone. What does that mean? It means conditions here around Houston, in the suburbs, getting worse every hour. Neighborhood after neighborhood now in the dark, declaring mandatory evacuations. It's getting much more dangerous. City officials now saying they will not be able to help people in certain of these neighborhoods. It's simply too tough to get around. And you can see many of the roads being flooded. Behind me, actually, we've been watching a giant sinkhole grow. That's because so much water has been dumped in this area. There are real questions about the structural soundness of small bridges. The shelters are filling up. You have to call ahead of time. They're even turning furniture stores into shelters. People are arriving wet and cold. When you see people around, they just look stunned, looking for something to eat, looking for clothing. The shelters have put out word. They need doctors, they need nurses, they need baby formula. Kimberly, back to you.
Wow. All right. Thanks, Steve. Stay safe and great job reporting for us. Let's go to Trace Gallagher, who is in the Woodlands, Texas, which is just north of Houston. Trace?
Yeah, Kimberly, we're about 40 miles north of where Steve Harrigan just gave you his report, and it's kind of a little bit of a different situation up here because the rain has died down really for the first time in several hours. I mean, it was an absolute deluge here all day long. We had flooding. We saw homes underwater. There were cars underwater, parking lots. They shut down one of the main interstates that runs from out here in Woodlands, one of the suburbs of Houston, into downtown Houston. It's going to be bearish for people to try to get anywhere near the city. We should point out they're trying to avoid exactly what's going on down there in Houston and the suburbs below there by doing the opposite. They are evacuating a number of neighborhoods up here about 20 miles north of us because they're very concerned about one of the rivers which is overflowing its banks. They're trying to let as much water as they possibly can out, but they're already at record levels out. They can only let so much. They're getting people out of there just in case the river overflows the banks. West of Houston, very much the same story. Getting people out of their homes now before any chance of flooding. We should note the rescue totals have now gone up. As of right now, they've rescued some 3,050 or so people. That's about 1,000 up from the number we were given just early this morning. So about 1,000 rescues today alone. They have mobilized 3,000 Texas National Guardsmen for this effort, but they have every single National Guard, 12,000 of them will be involved in this effort. And now we're being told the Border Patrol is also being mobilized. They're pulling them away from the border to come up to Houston and help out in this massive effort. They keep telling us the rain is going to slow down and eventually go away, but today we saw very little sign of that, Kimberly.
All right. Thanks, Trace, for that. And let's now hear from Caroline Shively, who is in Houston inside the convention center where people are still taking shelter. Caroline?
Hi there, Kimberly. We've just stepped out on the backside of the convention center to show you a very unusual helicopter landing pad. They've created one out of an interstate. This is I-45. It's the Pierce elevated landing, if you know this part of the road. We've seen helicopters coming through here. They're landing dead on in the middle of the interstate. They have been plucking folks off roofs, people who can't get to those high water vehicles, people who are past the point where they can be rescued by boats. They've had the helicopters. They put it down. We have some video earlier of one of the helicopters. We have seen Red Cross helicopters, National Guard helicopters, other military helicopters come in, they touch down, and you see the people run off of there, clutching their belongings, clothing, anything they could get a hold of. Then they go to the buses, and the buses can get them here to the convention center. 5,500 people have already gone here into the convention center. That is above capacity. 5,000 is what the max was, they said, but they're not closing these doors. Any buses that come, any people who come on foot here in the convention center, they're taking you in, even by helicopter now. Kimberly, back to you.
All right, thanks, Caroline. A lot of news out of the White House tonight, and for the very latest, is it ready? Okay, let's go to Ed Henry in Washington. There he is.
Hey, Kimberly, good to see you. The president will be joined on his trip to Texas tomorrow by First Lady Melania Trump. Significant because she's been known for her compassion, taking time out to visit children's hospitals on her early trips overseas with the president. Tomorrow, they will be in Texas trying to deal with the fallout from the storm. Important to note, they will be meeting with the governor of Texas in Austin, not going to Houston, because the president does not want his security needs to overwhelm first responders on the ground. Their time, of course, better spent on search and rescue efforts that painfully are still going on. This is all hands on deck for the administration. Vice President Mike Pence today traveled to FEMA headquarters for briefings. He also did a series of radio interviews where he estimated a shocking number. About 500,000 Americans, the vice president said, will get some kind of federal assistance after the cleanup from this storm. That's consistent with what the president said at a news conference at the White House, where he said the administration will stop at nothing to help.
We see neighbor helping neighbor, friend helping friend, and stranger helping stranger. And you see that all over. You watch on television, you just see such incredible work and love and teamwork. We are one American family. We hurt together. We struggle together. And believe me, we endure together.
Now, as all of this plays out here in the United States, the president still dealing with the crisis in North Korea. In the last few hours, the communist nation fired a missile over Japan. The Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, calling this, quote, the most serious and grave threat that his nation has faced yet in this entire standoff. The missile, we should report, broke into 3 different pieces before falling into the Pacific Ocean. It does not appear to have injured anyone or done any damage to Japanese assets, but a sign that this whole situation is far from over. Meanwhile, NBC News reporting tonight that Robert Mueller, the special counsel, of course, is now looking at whether or not President Trump was involved in a knowingly false statement when he helped craft the initial response to his son Donald Trump's Jr.'s statement about that meeting last summer at Trump Tower with the Russian lawyer. I'm getting strong pushback tonight from people in the president's inner circle trying to shoot down this report, saying that the president did not commit any kind of crime, that he had a very small amount of time spent in crafting that statement about his son's meeting at Trump Tower, and they think in the end the special counsel will find nothing. Kimberly.
All right, thanks, Ed, for that update. Pleasure to have you. Okay, let's take it around the table. Greg, if you want to talk about the storm, the aftermath, and what people are experiencing now. We'll talk about that first.
Well, it really does make you question the portrayal of a divided nation, which, you know, all of us kind of contribute to. And it made me think about where do you seek out moral guidance? And you don't need it from a political leader. I don't think you need moral guidance from a political leader. I don't think you need it from a religious leader. I think if you look around you and you look at the people there, Americans can handle massive catastrophes pretty damn good without inspiration. They're not inspired to do that. They're just naturally doing that. You couple that with the nature of our system, the United States. If you compare catastrophes of a similar kind, country by country, thousands upon thousands are killed, millions are injured, but for some reason in a system like ours, which is so resilient, which is a decentralized free market system that makes it easier for rescues, for housing to be found, for supplies to be delivered, for evacuations to be made quickly, it's because of a system that is decentralized and people can come from all over and do things, and it's a rich country. So when you have these two kinds of things, where you have a free market, you have a free people, you have a system that works even when it's called xenophobic or bigoted
Right.
in seemingly impossible times. This xenophobic, bigoted country goes out and saves people of every color. You have black people saving white people saving black people. There is no color. There's no identity politics. There's nothing like that. All you see are humans doing the right thing in a system that benefits doing the right thing.
Yeah, it really does give you a pause to reflect on what matters in life. You see this kind of human suffering, then you see people coming together, putting their lives on the line, like those that serve our country, to try to save, to make a difference, someone who's in peril.
It certainly makes you count your blessings, right?
It does,
If you start
indeed.
complaining during the day, you realize it could be a whole lot worse. But one thing I think has been interesting looking at the coverage of this and listening to the officials on the ground talking to the local communities, they have told them directly, do not wait on us to come rescue you. If you have a neighbor who can help you, jump in the boat. If you have boats, come and get in.
Certainly.
Don't wait for us to get there because we have limited resources, and the only way that you're going to be able to get out of a lot of these situations is by relying on your fellow Houstonian to get you out. I think the president's visit is obviously going to be important for political reasons, obviously, because we live in that kind of environment. But he is going to feel humbled, I think, when he gets to the ground and sees the devastation, but also some kind of hope and American experience and a healthy American attitude when it comes to helping each other.
Yeah, very much so. So this is a good opportunity for the president to show his compassionate side. He likes to rise to the occasion, especially when he sees a nation and states in peril.
Well, so far, I think the federal response has been very effective, and there's been great coordination among the local and state authorities with the feds. Hopefully, we can maintain that, because it looks like, based on these pictures, the worst is yet to come for some of these people. But I do think that Harvey has shown what Texas is made out of. It's unbelievable, the quiet grit, the determination,
resilience,
the compassion, the resilience that these people are showing. And it's not just the Texas National Guard, and it's not just the local police and fire departments. It's your average Joe on the street sacrificing himself to go help a neighbor. And it's just amazing to see. Texas is so independent. They're not complaining. There's not a lot of hysteria. There's not a lot of whining. It's just this quiet determination where people are helping each other out. It's also really refreshing to not see a lot of armchair quarterbacking going on. Not a lot of politicians are politicizing this. The mayor of Houston is a Democrat. The governor is a Republican. There's not a lot of second-guessing going on. I can't believe I'm seeing this in America. It's just absolutely baffling.
Will it stay that way?
Will it stay that way? We will see. And no looting so far. I guess if you're a looter in Texas, some bad things can happen to you. Haven't seen a lot of price gouging either. That's a shock. But I think that speaks to the spirit of Texas. I've seen some amazing things out there just looking at television over the weekend. Alligators on people's back doorsteps. I saw a shark on a highway swimming in the water. Like Sharknado. I saw a hawk sitting in someone's taxi cab. Greg and I were saying, the president was using the term biblical. Well, there's some really weird biblical things that are going on down there in Houston. I can't even imagine how I would be experiencing that as a guy from the Northeast, but I think Texas has it figured out, and God bless them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you look at the numbers, and we have some interesting statistics here, 450,000 people are likely, Richard, to seek federal aid. So these are people in need, and 30,000 people seek emergency shelter and 75,000 911 calls. Can you imagine?
No, I mean, I've lived through one of these things. So I'm from Miami, so I've lived through Hurricane Andrew. My mom is a registered nurse, so I know what it is to not have your parent there. My mom would leave us and go to the hospital and be there overnight because she's a critical care nurse.
Help people, yeah.
So shout out to all the nurses and doctors who spend the night in the hospital. So big shout out to them and doing what they do. But this is we're all Houston strong tonight. I'm wearing my Houston colors, Houston Rocket colors tonight because of that. And I want to give a big shout out to all those individuals who are working those extra hours to make sure the volunteers, the police officers, the firefighters who are doing yeoman's work. You guys get a big round of applause from me and all the Americans all across the country tonight.
Yeah, all the first responders. You always remember them, in these times of need, but let's also remember them.
And their families.
Yeah, and their families who sacrifice a lot like you had to when your mother went to go answer the call to help other people. So important life lessons we're reminded of, but once again,